Hey everybody, Kurt here. Thanks for watching my video. Today I'm going to give you an introduction to the 2XL toy robot and give you a little bit of details about the technology behind this toy, and then later I'll give you a demo of this toy. So this is my 2XL. Mine was made in 1978. But these toys were made all the way from 78 to 81 by the Meego Toy Corporation. You can see on the back, this one is made in 78, and there's the Meego Corporation there. Now the Meego Toy Corporation, they were making toys between 1954 and 1983, but most of their toys were actually action figures. So electronic educational toys were really not their forte, but the 2XL really took off. Now, the 2XL, if you're not familiar with it, it plays some very special and educational and also entertaining 8-track tapes. Now, I know a lot of the viewers are not going to be familiar with 8-track tapes, so this is an example of a 2XL 8-track tape. This is the general information episode, and there you can see the tape. We'll go into some technical details later, but this is just one of the 2XL tapes that I have. This is the one I'm going to be demoing in a little bit. So basically, the 2XL robot is just a really cool looking 8-track tape player. So it also plays normal 8-track tapes. They call it a robot, but it actually doesn't have any moving parts. It only speaks to the user, and it basically asks them trivia questions, which they can answer by pressing one of the 4 buttons on the front of the robot. It's a very educational toy. It's very interactive, even though your only interface is these four buttons. The robot actually reacts to your answers, which is pretty cool for 10-year-old me. The reactions that the robot gives you to your answers, it gives the appearance that this robot has intelligence. So kids today, they probably wouldn't be fooled by this toy into thinking that it's an intelligent robot. But put yourself back in the late 70s, and this robot is reacting to your answers, and a lot of kids, including myself, thought that this was a really amazing toy back then. And the personality that they programmed into these tapes, that they recorded into these tapes, was actually pretty funny, at least to 8-year-old me. There were a lot of corny jokes that the 2XL told, and a little bit of trivia. The voice that the Meego Toy Corporation actually used for this robot was actually the voice of its inventor, Dr. Michael J. Freeman. And Dr. Freeman actually later invented the automated telephone menu system that we all know and love even today. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about the technology behind this 2XL robotic toy. As I mentioned earlier, it's basically just an 8-track tape player. And 8 tracks are a magnetic tape that is 1/4 inch wide tape. And there are analog audio signals that are recorded on this tape, and they're read by the read head. It's similar to cassette tapes that were popular in the 80s, but this was popular in the 70s. The really cool thing about an 8-track tape, which is not the case with cassette tapes, all 8-track tapes hold a single continuous loop of this tape. And so there is a reel inside here that has the tape wrapped around, but the spool is actually being pulled from one side and is actually being wound on the other side. And this tape, it's hard to believe, but this tape is actually a single continuous loop, and it will play forever. And that's a really cool feature of 8 tracks. The reason it's called 8-track is because there are 8 audio tracks recorded on this 1/4-inch tape. Now, they are stereo pairs, so even though there are 8 tracks, 2 tracks make a stereo pair, and so there are only 4 programs on an 8-track tape, and that's why there are 4 buttons on an 8-track tape player. But one loop of this program, of each of those 4 programs, can hold more than one song, so you're not limited to 4 songs. You can fit 8, 10, 12 songs, depending on how much tape you put in here. You can fit an entire LP album, obviously, and quite a bit more than that if you need to. So the fact that 8 tracks are a continuous loop is a really pretty cool feature of 8 tracks, but one of the kind of bad things about 8 tracks are if you wanted to listen to a specific song, it might take you a while to find it. You might have to listen to the song before it, before you can listen to the song you are really looking for, because you're kind of you only have the 4 programs that the read head can jump between. Alright, so now let's get to the fun part, and let's play with the 2XL for a few minutes and see it in action. First, we'll plug it in. This is the power cord. It has a standard AC to DC adapter, but the power cord is kind of weird. It looks like an audio jack. It probably fits an audio jack, which is maybe a little bit dangerous. But power cord goes right there, and the 8-track tape goes in there, and on switch and volume. So this is the beginning of the program. Sounds like it's booting up. You can see there's a blinking LED at the top.
Thank you for turning me on.
And he has
Let me
LED
introduce myself.
eyeballs.
I am 2XL, a new toy from meego. But you can call me Brainy, because I am the smartest toy robot in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I can talk to you, and you push buttons to answer me. Let me turn on all my systems, so I can become operational. I am now fully functional and ready to go. Before we begin, there are 2 instructions I'd like you to remember. 1. Always choose answers after I say the word now. The word now is your clue to choose answers. Please never choose answers or push buttons on your own. Only after I say the word now.
Got it.
2. If you ever get confused or if a question is too difficult for you, push Q instead of your answer. When you push Q, I know you are confused, and I will explain the answer to you.
Got it. I want to mention, I forgot to mention this before, the 4 buttons are labeled, on a regular 8-track player, they're going to be labeled A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4. But on the 2XL, the first button is labeled question, and then we've got basically 3 different answers that the user can input after they hear the question. The answers can be A, yes or true for this button, B, more or info for this button, and C, no or false for this button. So he's going to be basically asking us true-false questions, yes-no questions, or ABC questions. Let's continue.
It's only an introductory program. Some of the questions will be easy for you, and others hard. In either case, I hope you enjoy operating me. Let us begin. Question number 1 is a question from the Guinness Book of World Records.
Mm-hmm.
It will be a true-false question, and you will use the true-false buttons to answer it. The fattest man who ever lived weighed over 1,000 pounds. Please answer true or false now.
1,000 pounds. That sounds like a lot. I think maybe that one's false. it was already on false. You can hear it switch tracks. So I hit
have
false.
some bad news for you. You have answered false, and this is not the correct answer. A man
It was
named
1,000
Robert Earl
pounds.
Hughes weighed 1,069 pounds.
So we're
You
learning.
may be interested to know that when Mr. Hughes was 6 years old, he already weighed 203 pounds. He
Amazing.
was so fat that when he died, Mr. Hughes had to be buried in a piano case.
So he usually, a lot of times,
Question
gives
number
us
2 is a
explanations.
question about a TV
So
program.
we're learning.
Since you didn't do too well on that last question, I will make this a pretty easy question.
knows we got
so
it
hopefully
incorrect.
you can be correct. What TV program has these characters? Little Opie, Aunt Bee, and a police officer named Barney.
Mhm.
I will give you 3 choices.
That's easy.
Is your answer A, Gomer Pyle Show, B, Lassie, or C, Andy Griffith?
I know it's Andy
Please
Griffith,
answer A,
but-
B, or C now.
I'm going to answer wrong, just so you can hear. Oh, I just answered wrong. Maybe I should answer correctly so you can, so you can hear how he reacts to a correct answer.
You have answered C, Andy Griffith Show. You must have a computer brain or something because you are correct. Very good work. I am very excited for you. Good work. Do you know
Very-
why the elephant was the last animal on
Oh, here comes
Noah's
a joke.
Ark? Because he had to pack his trunk.
Funny.
I'm sorry, but robots
Okay,
think
now-
it is a funny joke.
Now he's going to give us a
Getting
choice
back to business
of
here.
questions.
Question number 3. For this question, I will give you a choice. This question will be about sports. Listen carefully. If you would like a question about baseball, push A.
Baseball.
If you would like a question about football, push B.
Football.
Or if you would like a question about women's tennis, please push C. Please
Let's do
push
baseball.
A, B, or C now.
Okay, now we're on the baseball track. And this is interesting because in the 3 tracks, he's going to ask 3 different questions, but the answer
It is nice to see
to
that
those
you
3
are
questions has to be the
interested in
same.
baseball.
It has to be the
Here
same
is
track.
a question about baseball. It is a difficult question. Pretend that you are a Major League Baseball umpire. A batter comes to the plate. The pitch. A beautiful shot, a line drive down the third base line that hits the foul pole on a fly. As umpire, you notice that after the ball hits the foul pole on a fly, it goes into the stands, but in foul territory. What call should you make? I will provide 3 choices. A, foul ball. B, home run. Or C, ground rule double.
Foul
Please,
ball,
if you don't
home
mind,
run.
answer A, B, or C now.
I have no idea. I'm going to answer C.
I have some bad news for you. Unfortunately, I am a robot and am programmed to only tell the truth and be logical.
feels really
I would like
bad.
not to tell you this, but here goes. I am forced to tell you because of my
When you
program.
get a wrong answer.
You have answered C. The correct answer was B. Therefore, you are wrong.
All right, so that's a little bit of the interaction of 2XL. Now, I timed this loop of tape from start to finish, and it took 20 minutes on the dot. So, even though there are 4 tracks of 20 minutes long, so 80 minutes worth of tape on this 8-track tape, the user experience from start to finish for this particular tape is only 20 minutes. Because you can listen to it again, but you're going to hear the same questions. You will get some. If you choose different answers the next time you play it, you're going to hear different jokes, and your user experience is going to be a little bit different. So that's pretty cool. But the typical user experience is 20 minutes, which for a 6 or an 8-year-old. That's probably a really good long experience for a toy like this. Now, I took some time and I listened to all 4 of the programs on this tape, and I mapped out the entire user experience. And there were some things I noticed that were pretty interesting. Um, on this graphic, you can see the four programs that are on this tape, and they all start out with the same introduction. They all then ask the same Fat Man Guinness Book of World Records question, and then you can see which one is the correct answer. Program 2 or the A button on the front of the robot is the correct answer. Um, if the user actually hit the Q button, the program 1 button, the robot would say, it looks like you're confused because you didn't answer A, B, or C, and so I'll just go ahead and give you the answer. So program 1, all the way down the entire user experience, if the user stays on program 1, the 2XL is just going to give them, he'll give them the answer because the user is obviously confused. Now, on the Andy Griffith question, the second question, I noticed that there's two different variants of that question. On two of the tracks, 2XL actually whistled the Andy Griffith tune, and you had to guess the show. And then on the other two tracks, he asked the characters, and you had to guess the show. So this toy is kind of cool how they can vary the question, but the answer tracks have to remain the same. There is only one answer track that is correct. Then you can see when we get down to the first joke, there are actually three different jokes depending on the three tracks you could be on, and then it looks like they just reproduced one of the jokes on the question track, which is program 1, rather than make up a fourth joke, which would probably be a waste of their time, since very few users would end up being on the question track at that point. Now, when we get to the choice of questions here, you get baseball, football, and tennis were the three choices, but if the user didn't choose one of those, the robot said, it looks like you're confused, I guess I'll just make up a diving question. But the answer to all three of those different types of questions was always B, or the program 3 track. So that kind of gives you a feel for how this technology works. Now, late in the program, 2XL asks you, he asks a moon landing question, so all three tracks get the same moon landing question, and then after that question is answered, 2XL asks you, I have in my memory banks a recording of the actual moon landing, the first words that were said on the moon, would you like to listen to it? And so there was only one track that says, yes, I want to listen to it, and that's the B track. And so at that point, he plays several, more than a minute probably of the Neil Armstrong walking on the moon and saying, one small step for man, a giant leap for mankind. But on the other tracks, if the user didn't want to listen to that, he actually gives them a bonus question, which is formed in the form of a tongue twister. And so then, because the middle track is busy playing the recording of the moon landing, the tongue twister question on the other tracks has to be a true-false question, which will give you the A and the C track, or the program 2 and the program 4 track as your answers. And then all of those converge back again when question 9 is asked on all four of the tracks, or all four of the programs. So that ends our demonstration of the 2XL and your introduction to 2XL. These toys were very popular in the late 70s and early 80s, and I did a quick search on eBay just before I started recording, and you can buy one of these toys, working toys, on eBay. They're really quite rugged. It's a pretty simple 8-track player, just very few moving parts. Yeah, if you really want one of these, mine is not for sale, but if you really want one of these toys, either just to put on a shelf and display, or to let your kids experience it, you can totally buy these on eBay. They're not cheap though. The cheapest I noticed in my quick search was $50, but they go up to a couple hundred, I guess, if they're in really good shape. I don't know the details. But there you have it, the 2XL. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and thank you for your interest, and have a great day. Bye.